also gonna go another way, because some people don't want to use AI at all. It's like, oh, it's devil. We don't want to use it. So it also builds enough trust that it's something what can help you, and not only disturb you, but it's also not the only source of truth for everything.
There is a difference between AI legacy code and the true legacy code, which was written many years ago, maybe forgotten, but it still makes a lot of money. Because if you look on the companies around the world, most of them make money on legacy code.
For me, AI is a rubber duck. It's a semi-smart entity that can at least repeat what I said with certain amount of phrasing that helps me revisit what I just said and try to do.
I think quite a lot of people try to explain it, but let's try to focus on like 2-3 points. If you were to give 2-3 points, what to see, what to check in a vibe code application before it can be processed further, what would that be? Jarek?
How data is stored, where is it stored, how is it being accessed, how is it being shared. And this is from my compliance-driven mindset. Origin, processing, storage, what happens to the data? If you follow the data, most often you will find a lot of other things to look into. I'm sure that Paulina and you will mention other aspects, so I'm not going to go into depth. But if I were to start somewhere, I would start with the data.
I think that's a good point, because the error which was found in the vibe coded app that was presented on LinkedIn, that was exactly doing this thing. Somebody just followed the path of the data and found out that the files, the naming of files, could actually be exploited in a very easy way. Paulina, you are mostly working also with the infrastructure, so probably you will have a slightly different list, but I'm actually very interested. What will be your take on this?
Not necessarily going back to access, and is it private, is it public? One of the most common mistakes is public access or too wide access to, as mentioned, from databases as free buckets in AWS. That's one of the most common bridges in AWS, for example. So access, it's usually, and how wide access is, that's one of the simplest one. And also the credentials, as you mentioned before, also people still in 2025 use only authentication with password, with easy or default password, and they commit it to the code, which you can see in the pipelines, and you can find it too easily. So we go back to basics.
My take is usually that I go, every time I look on something and mostly work with web, that will be the OWASP top 10 list. So basically, I'm trying to find and spot all irregularities and how you can actually get hold of the data. And usually it's playing a lot with the API links, trying to see if there are some not established guardrails and so on. But it's basically involving playing with the application. The fun part is that almost most of the things that we have mentioned can be done without even looking into the source code. Now, the question is, what kind of dead bodies can be found when you actually open the source code? Paulina?
Well, what can not be found? Outdated stuff, security issues, hard-coded password, admin 123, public access. Yeah, we can keep going.
I mean, these are the human errors. I would expect that the AI is not going to make such trivial mistakes, but still, people find every now and then that credentials, they are committed to the code, which I think is the number one sin when it comes to vibe-coded apps. Jarek, what kind of dead bodies you could dig from the source code?
We could start with things like, is the data stored encrypted, not encrypted, if it's passed in the right place, if it's exposed with the right permissions that you said earlier, Paulina. Things that I wouldn't probably even need to have a full insight into code, because luckily for us, GDPR forces you to make security disclosures about your product and how data is handled. So even there, you could spot areas of interest, and then only then you can cross-reference them with the code and say, okay, are we actually doing what's being claimed, and kind of follow the path. Again, I'm very data-centric, so natural bias.
The number one bias which I usually have is, apart all the stuff that you have mentioned, maybe not that much compliance, but I'm also looking on data from the point of view of security, which is in a way compliance, as you said, Jarek. But the things which I'm usually looking at, that's the maintainability of the code. Because in my 18 plus years of working in the IT, not a single project which I have delivered was delivered and I never heard, okay, we're not talking about the bad customers, but basically people always want changes. They always want more. Business is a living thing. So basically at some point, the conditions change and you have to modify the application. And this is what I have found out is the biggest challenge so far with this kind of generated code.
And I think this is a really interesting take, because the definition of legacy code is the code which you don't understand. By definition, vibe-coded project is legacy on day one, because you have a code which you don't understand.
Let me interrupt you, but there is a difference between AI legacy code and the true legacy code, which was written many years ago, maybe forgotten, but it still makes a lot of money. Because if you look on the companies around the world, most of them make money on legacy code. Paulina, you are also looking into many customers. What kind of
Yes,
code is making money usually?
sometimes you have, core business on the code, which is 25 years old, and the people who understand the code left company 15 years ago and no one touched it. And you have repo, which is few gigs in the size and no one understands what's inside. If it blows up, the business goes down. And we're not talking about small companies. We're talking big companies. So
yeah, but this is a really interesting distinction, because you talk about legacy that's 20 years old. So this application managed to accumulate value over 20 years. Here I'm talking about you vibe coded something that's legacy on day one. Before
it's
even
deprecated on the release day.
Before it even made any bugs. So
yeah, but question if we need to change, how do we define legacy code for AI? Or how do we work with a code getting created by AI?
If AI is able to work on the code it generated, it's not legacy by definition. But maybe we're going on a tangent.
I mean,
here.
you can get relatively decent rewrites and changes in the architecture. Of course, if you invest a lot of time and make sure that you have good descriptions, good prompts, and you basically drop the instruction files almost everywhere in the project. But still, I think there is a huge difference between AI legacy and the true legacy, which basically is a code which is sometimes not maintained or forgotten, or you don't have people to look after it and so on. Or sometimes it's simply, it works and nobody needs to touch it actually, because it just works.
We need a new word. It's no longer legacy software.
It's a combination of technological debt. It's the worst side of legacy code and something else. Do you have any ideas? Because I'm running short now. Worst side of the legacy code, technological debt. That's kind of like, that's the worst part of the legacy. But the thing is, AI legacy and regular legacy is different. And as you have all mentioned, the code produced by Vibe code basically has the worst properties of legacy code. It comes with some form of technological debt. Yes or no, depends, like everything in IT. And this is actually a very bad start, because as you mentioned, Jarek, you have the code which has those things that it should normally accumulate over the years, but you have no money.
Not yet. It hasn't.
Not yet, at least, yes.
It hasn't earned the money yet.
Exactly. The code hasn't earned money yet. Which brings me to the next question, because I think I already know the answer. When would you buy, then, a Vibe-coded application?
It's checked for security, for compliance by people who know what they're talking about and they have experience in coding before AI and only with AI. So you need to check if it's production ready and not get an application which is vibe coded and put it in production straight away.
But the problem is here with this approach, I think, that you still have to invest a lot of man hours to do the review.
But I don't think we're in the place where you can just vibe code the application and go with it to production, unless you're doing something for prototyping.
And that's
Exactly.
where, Paulina, I would kind of say I would never buy a vibe coded app, except for consumer entertainment or things that have no risk because they hold no sensitive or personal data. So,
Sorry, you just mentioned entertainment.
yeah,
That always carries some kind of risk. Even if you got access to my playlists, that would be some kind of personal risk.
I mean,
yes.
so I'll give you an example. About, what was it, 6, maybe 8 months ago, when the vibe coded exploded on social media. It wasn't the first, but it was kind of getting more popular and traction in mainstream media. A chap called Peter Levels on X or Twitter started building games using vibe coding. Super nice experiment. He has his own personality, which drives the crowds towards, brings attention. But that's the thing I would kind of back with kind of attention and even buying as a product. It's a fun exercise. It's experience. It's a entertainment. I'm not talking about the entertainment that holds my watch list history, right? Again, data. But it was fun. That's the thing where I see the potential today. Because what you, Paulina, described, business context, doing audits, doing checks, going through expensive process of validating that the thing that AI spit out is useful, that's a completely different ballpark of problems.
Yeah, we are going into 2 different categories right now. And but question if even for entertainment, you don't need some basic security because you still need to pay for it. You still need to give it basic data to be able to get access and so on.
True. You're absolutely right. But that's why I would use it. I will use the example from Peter Levels because it's a trivial and the surface of risk is so small, then it's acceptable risk. Whereas when it comes to business and processing data, especially customer data, the risk is exponentially higher, right? That is my definition of entertainment vibe coding rather than software vibe coding. And you, Michał, what would you buy?
I don't think I would buy the vibe coded app because I can do it myself. And I do it myself. And I love doing it for prototypes, which allow me also to see all the limitations. And as I get as I'm getting several times pissed in front of the computer that is doing stupid things. So prototypes, that's brilliant. So I wouldn't pay for the vibe coded app, but I would pay for the idea for an app. And I would then vibe code it very quickly so that I can distribute it among like 100, 200 people I know just to test and validate the initial idea. Because this is amazing. I mean, you can do this today with like, I don't know, $1,000. You can validate something that normally would cost 300,000. But then, if that actually worked out, I would do it the regular way. So I would start with the human design. Of course, I'm popping in AI, but the AI is working there just like as the accelerator, as a very smart assistant. But there is still the seniors are driving the whole idea, and of course, customers.
You know what you remind me of? Your description of AI use case reminds me of a wave of low-code platforms 5 years ago. Because everyone was saying, oh, you can just click through and magically an app manifests itself. This is exactly the same thing. It's a bit cheaper back then because AI obviously is super expensive when you come to those more productive models. But what you describe is effectively low-code Bubble. It was a platform called Bubble that we said is going to revolutionize app development. It didn't. Low code is still there, but it's kind of that the wave kind of died down. Sounds like AI is this yet another low code example.
To be honest, I failed miserably with low code. Do you have an idea why? What is the weakest point, in your opinion, of low code solutions?
Paulina,
It's
you have
not
opinion?
that flexible, in my opinion. Like you have fixed blocks which you need to use, it's like these apps for the kids when they learn how the coding works. That's what my brother was using in the primary school to, put the animal from one point to another by putting certain comments into it
It's a
and
scratch
blocks
for
which
business.
is doing.
Scratch for business.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
the point is that
So
but that gives me a brilliant idea. That's the thing. An application on its own, if it's low code, whatever, it can do brilliant stuff, but it's useless if you cannot integrate it with anything else. And we come now to this idea with vibe-coded apps, how easily you can extend them with external actors, external integrations, APIs, stuff like that. We come back to the maintainability. But Jarek, what are your experiences with the low code? Because that's where I failed. Integrations, they were costing often more than the product itself.
My experience is a bit different because as a software engineer by heart, I found the idea extremely limiting because I wanted to have a full control of the component. I want to build my own components. Whereas if you look at low code platforms, everything is a plugin on a platform, which is very tied to the platform ecosystem itself. And then, as you said, any interaction with the external world is, you have to build your API and go through Zapier to get stuff to Webflow. And then Zapier has to talk to Stripe, and that has to talk with Zapier again to send it somewhere else. It's possible, but the moment you actually achieve it, the complexity of the system, the benefits are already lost. You could build a more robust system from ground up using battle-tested frameworks in much shorter time, at much lower costs, with much higher maintainability.
So basically, when I sum up your smart answers, I'm coming to a very good conclusion. Vibe-coded apps are great for prototyping, and they give you much more flexibility. They give you much more choice than low-code solutions. But still, at this age, we're actually limited just to actually making prototypes.
In a way. I think in one of our offline conversation with Paulina, you mentioned things like the training of the models, right? The data that goes to the model. So what was that about?
I think, we have a lot of different fields which are very, you cannot get good results unless you train something or at least train base model on the particular data, which is very needs to be clean and you need to know the source of it. But you're not getting the result and confidence and lack of the hallucination from AI. Which can provide the business value actually and the value to the particular customer, field, patient, whoever it is. So there's a lot about how clean your data is to be able to train, even if it's the public model, how well you can train it in the specific direction you want to use it.
Yeah. So on the similar train of thought, like if we were to improve the quality of our vibe coded applications, we will have to train it on a data that's proprietary to our systems, and ideally without exposing the data to the external world, because that's our competitive advantage at least to some extent. But who today has a farm of GPU servers to run their own models? How many customers do you know that have server farms with GPUs lying around?
I have.
But how big percentage of it is, right?
This is basically nothing, because the problem is that you have to have a GPU with enough VRAM to load the whole model and as soon as we are getting into the very interesting models, and if you are interested in this in speed, we are talking about more than 80 gigabytes.
Yeah.
And those cards, the price tags, they start getting into the cars. And of course, then there comes the other problem that a lot of people forget. Somebody has to pay the electricity bill.
An engineer who can actually use the AI.
That's true. But that brings me anyway to a different thing, because with the vibe coded and AI and so on, and of course the focus on data, something which I recommend that people should try if they have a good graphics card, for example, at home already in their gaming computer, try to run the models, because you can download them and you can play with them, and you can get actually quite decent speeds if you use proper quantization. And this is also a very good light for companies to start utilizing AI for different workloads and making sure that you're still compliant. And this is something, Jarek, that you said. And Paulina, I think you as a DevOps person, obviously, then you are in full control also of the hardware. And I think the biggest, how many times you had customers that were completely scared to death by the cloud build that escalated?
Quite many times. I think almost each of them is quite scared of cloud. Oh, it's gonna, explode. But I think the knowledge of cloud got a bit better over the last few years, so it's a bit less.
It is true also what
We are
David
cloud native
Heinemeier did.
We are cloud native in industry for what, 15 years now, right? More or less native.
But what David
there is
Heinemeier
some
did,
comeback back
basically
to bare metal right now, as I can see over what's going on for last year, especially with some foreign politics.
Yeah. I mean, THH took a very weird and very, I would say, extremist hook on this. So we can make a whole episode about it.
That's true. But he also had, I think he also had the size. He could pull this off because he had the size where the savings were actually significant.
Yeah, again, this is a
different episode.
This different episode because I think he was wrong on many counts. Different story. But coming back to the vibe coding and AI, and I think because so far we have been rather negative about AI in general in our conversation. I would like to make the point that it's not about dissing or dismissing AI. I had a really interesting experience which convinced me that there is a significant benefit of using AI LLM models for improving application, but I wouldn't trust building applications with AI exclusively, specifically vibe coding approach. So it's not about dismissing AI. There are good use cases, but for business, with compliance in mind, with security in mind, with business continuity in mind, I wouldn't dare putting a AI vibe coded product in front of a customer.
So I use AI every day. Paulina, you already said, Jarek, that you do this because I have found out my own way of harnessing the power of it to kind of to get some kind of edge, to speed up my daily work. So basically, can you pick one or maybe two great use cases that we could recommend to people? What to do so that you minimize the risk of actually getting a flop, losing money, doing stupid things?
Prototyping, I think that's one part. So you can easier actually talk to business and understand each other. That's what I found to get very useful. If you forget some information, AI is brilliant with it to remind you, comments, not comments. That's another thing. And I think creating also internal LLMs and training them for particular data, that's something what I also find quite useful on the documentation, agent which you can talk and it's trained on your internal documentation, the code domain, it can come back with much better info than Confluence search or whatever.
So basically, it's like the smartest possible personal assistant that can very quickly go through thousands of pages and basically direct you to the right thing, plus, of course, prototyping. Jarek, what kind of use case you have in your sleeve?
For me, AI is a rubber duck. It's a semi-smart entity that can at least repeat what I said with certain amount of phrasing that helps me revisit what I just said and try to do. I would limit it to this level of use cases for the live coding. However, I do see significant value in building your own very restricted agents. And And that's where I today see a value of LLMs, because they can translate a non-structured input from the user into an actionable API calls. That's my use case.
My use case, apart from the personal assistant and sometimes, spitting some quick code or doing some prototypes, is that I cannot talk about the details, but among my customers, we started implementing LLMs, including the private versions where they run their own models on their own hardware. And this is giving brilliant results. But the thing is, we invested a lot of time into finding the niche where AI actually performs. Because everybody's talking about hallucinations. AI doesn't hallucinate. It actually works as it was designed. That's the problem. So it's 100% sure that it's doing the right thing. But my best use case is you can find them, but you're going to probably fail a lot. And if you want to be serious, then pick them and make sure that you have enough time to actually test them.
Agree. But the good news is that the new use cases come up. So hopefully the whole investment that we as an industry and effort will keep on pouring into AI bubble or not bubble, that we can at some point capitalize it, because it'll be very, I would say, sad if all the effort, all the money, all the resources we literally burned through to get to the point where are today were all for nothing. So I would say a year ago, I would say AI was useless until we actually built MCP protocol for building useful agents. Now, security in agents is also a cluster. This is a different conversation, but there are ways to, with good engineering practices, make it sound and make it safe. So I think we're at the beginning of a journey. Hopefully not as drastically ending like we seen the low code, but yeah.
And hopefully not the Walking Dead scenario.
That's us if the planet burns down.
We will see.
Before we finish, I have one last question. Because all of you are so much concerned about security. Do you know what Palantir means?
Is it some kind of... no, I don't.
It's from the Lord of the Rings. It's the ball that allows you to see into funny things. But the problem is you never know who else is also looking into that ball. And you're actually at that point also spilling your own secrets. And this is something I've been mentioning a lot on LinkedIn. AI, you're sharing your data with the commercial models. And there is a lot of promises made in the terms and conditions, but you never know who else is looking into the bucket. Do you think I'm paranoid? Or do you think I'm onto something, Paulina?
I don't think you're paranoid. I think a lot of people, they tell AI everything from, very private stuff, health stuff, finances, just everything. And we don't really know, there's not really heavily regulated yet what they can do with data. And yeah, we don't know what can get out of it and what the company which owns the models can do with it.
Let me ask you this, Paulina. If you were one of the big bosses of of OpenAI, and you had made this mishap that you were at the wrong time, the wrong day, in the server room, and you had access to all the secrets of all of your competitors in the world. I mean, it's tempting. It's just, I would just look once.
All the big social media companies are also selling data and so on. It's business. So let's be honest, there's a big gray zone in it.
I don't think it's gray. Like, there are documented cases followed by lawsuits where Amazon started building and selling products that people hosted on AWS. I have absolutely no doubt some or all of these AI vendors today are doing exactly that, just waiting for the opportunity to find a golden nugget. We know how ethical Meta is. we can be sure that at some point we'll discover mishandling of the data that they have got. So I have absolutely no, I'm not delusional. I know that this data is being used today by someone in the wrong way, undocumented way. The good news is there are, I would say, vendors with their values aligned differently. So you can get, for example, a private quote unquote models running with OVH. You can have private models running with, I think, Swiss Infomaniac, and there probably other cloud providers will offer you their own private models. So assuming that they adhere to the law and the terms and conditions they offer, you could guess, make a decent assumption that your data is safe. But then obviously
You're right. But one thing I learned in the past 18 years is that people are actually dishonest. Why? Because I have access to the logs. It's a bit sad.
yes, yeah.
Also, the politics about data is changing all the time, and companies are changing it all the time. How they, and finishing the thought, politics about data is changing all the time. They're trying to give themselves more and more permission.
It was Zuckerberg.
DIY, they say. So data politics is changing all the time in the big companies. So they're trying to get more and more access to our data and what they can do with it. And all the time by expanding how much they can do it and without informing end users about it. And there was quite a lot of noise about certain companies not informing enough the users about this change.
Okay. Do you want to add something, Jarek?
No, I think Paulina is spot on. Data is being captured all the time. The protection of the data is valid only today with the regulation we have today. If for reasons, for example, political pressure from US, GDPR were to be relaxed or lost altogether, then suddenly all the data we accumulated with the intention of being protected and the hope that they're being handled correctly, everything goes poof overnight.
But wait, because that's a very complex thing. I think I can explain it in a simple way. So basically, the stupid picture that you took during the party, today it might be still secure because you shared it with your friends on Facebook through whatever. But tomorrow the law or the rules can change, and that picture can actually become the haunting thing of your life.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about the dangers and so on, and this is because we are engineers. It's obvious. We're always looking on the problems because that's what we are doing every day.
Very specific use cases for the agents with very specific data on the private infrastructure and the private LLMs. I think that can get quite good results, as we talked.
So I would go for...
that's jakby ci odpowiadać. So we've been talking a lot about AI and we've been a little bit negative, but that's because we are engineers. We are looking for problems in order to solve them. If I was the big CEO and came to you and said, like, what can I use this AI for? Give me your go-to answers. What would you tell me?
Give your engineers a personal assistant today. That AI, if not perfect, will definitely simplify and improve certain workflows for your engineers on a daily basis. Give them this AI assistant.
Extra question. Would you leave them alone to grasp the power of AI, or would you actually invest in someone to show them the best ways of using that AI assistant?
It depends. That's if I know it's a typical answer from the engineer, but it depends if you have a skill set within the company, because you can have some people who are educated in it, even if they are not something what they're doing on the daily basis at work. So I would check who do you have internally in the company, but also regarding the assistants. it shouldn't be only public assistant. It also should be something what is trained within your domain, within your resources which you have in the company, and maybe based on the public model, but stored internally. So you can have something what gives you much better results in the domain knowledge at least.
I would go as far as say, treat AI assistant and everything AI as a power tool, like a drill, like a big hammer. Don't give it to a kid. Give it to an adult. Give it to someone who shows enough professional prowess to prove that they can use it. A, not to send to public AI your sensitive information or trade secrets. And two, understand what it spits out is error prone. So you still have to understand what it responded to you to assess whether it's valid. It's a drill. It's a jackhammer. It's not a toy. It's a power tool. So give it to the power users in organizations. If you give it to someone else, put some guardrails, have a code review. Don't skip those things.
But also don't go another way, because some people don't want to use AI at all. It's like, oh, it's devil. We don't want to use it. So it also builds enough trust that it's something what can help you, and not only disturb you, but it's also not the only source of truth for everything. Validate what does it spit out.
Exactly. It's a tool. That's the kind of key message of it. It's a tool. It's not a holy grail of everything. It's a tool. You have many tools in your belt, right? This is one of them. Keyboard, AI, desk lamp. They are all tools.
And as of 2025, the idea is you can no longer come to the race or to the job without having this tool in your pocket. And the whole point is, don't have the AI for the sake of having AI. Actually invest some time and find whether actually you can accelerate your workflows. And this is something that probably people cannot do themselves. They have to get some experts to show them. Because I don't expect that CEO to have an idea. As I have seen how my customers were adopting AI, it was always the external voice. It was the need from the inside, but the voice showing the possibilities, doing the implementation, that was usually coming from the outside.
It's interesting angle because my experience involves more around organizations where ideas or drive for new technology comes from the engineers. So it will be more like there is one or two engineers who want to introduce new tech, and it kind of bubbles from them to the upper layers, and at some point it hits is the C-level, gets recognized and adopted across the organization. But there are obviously different organizations across the board, right? That some are top down, some are bottom up. So it really depends how your organization applies these processes internally. There is not one size fits all.
I've seen both from bottom up and from external, but as you mentioned, I rarely see it coming from management.
I've seen also both. And
both can work. There's
definitely.
no good answer, right? I think that they all carry different risks because engineers want to have a new toy, and they sometimes have to be stopped from willy-nilly spending company resources on the toys, whereas management sometimes is too inundated in the trends, where trends don't necessarily mean value add for engineers. So both parties can make mistakes. Both parties have to meet in the middle and reach consensus whether they can do it themselves in the organization, whether they need external expert to help. It all depends on the kind of organizations. The bigger ones probably need help from outside as a tiebreaker, as someone who has experience from different organizations. Smaller startups are probably more nimble because you can probably see your CEO sitting next cubicle or Zoom call. I think it all depends on dynamics. There's no one size fits all, but we are probably all right. You, Paulina, and you, Michał, you're probably right. It all depends. Our favorite answer. Maybe we should rename the podcast. It all depends.
That would be nice. So basically, I think that's the moment where we should finish, because otherwise I'm afraid we're going to enter new topics, which probably we could be talking about for the rest of the night. Paulina, do you want to add something to what Jarek said? Great. So basically, we started doing this podcast because we got tired of bad content infiltrating LinkedIn, and we're doing this raw. We're doing this from our homes. And if you have any ideas, if you have any problems that you would like us to talk about during this podcast, you can actually get them solved for free by 3 engineering heads. Contact us if you found any value. If whatever we are talking about here, definitely share it, because that's what we want to do. We want to basically eradicate some of the useless AI content and replace it with real discussion, which has issues and problems, like me doing this from my apartment, which is basically still full of boxes. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you both next week during our Monday evening. So basically, we are putting us on the edge by doing this raw and kind of like going outside of our own comfort zones, because normally we don't talk to people, we don't stand in front of camera. If you found this interesting and valuable, we would definitely like you to share it, because that's the way we can actually get to the broader public. And if you have any stuff that you would like us to discuss, if you have any problems that you would like us to solve for you, if we like the topic, if this is something we are competent about, you can actually get it solved online for free. Make sure to follow our profiles, because that's exactly where we will be publishing bits and pieces. And I recommend that you follow me. And my name is Michael.
My name is Jarek.
And we have just found out that this podcast should have a name.